Hey everyone, Reid of Valor. The purpose of this video we're going to talk about is what is impeding Alabama's constitutional carry. Let's go ahead and get started. Folks, we're going to do some good information in this video. I'm going to include some constitutional stuff. I'm also going to include some words of the founders with some Federalist Papers here. Before we even begin though, I want you to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, that you got your alerts going, because I do 1 or 2 videos a week. I also do exclusives on Rumble. There's a pinned comment in the comment section there that you can become a member on my Rumble. It's free, and I think it'll be the place to be, especially coming up later on this month. We do exclusive content there, stuff I normally wouldn't put on YouTube and get to say things without being censored. So if you've been paying attention to the state of constitutional carry in this country, we currently have 20 plus states. Alabama is set to be the 22nd. I know Georgia is also passed the committee on that, so I look at them as well to get constitutional carry. We've got a lot of states this year that will more than likely be constitutional carry states, which will put it at 30. And that would be an incredible statement nationwide, which I believe should be constitutional carry in every state. You should not have to ask the government permission to carry a firearm to protect yourself, your family, and your country. That's in our Constitution. Nonetheless, we do it one step at a time, and we're pushing it forward. My state, Tennessee, got constitutional carry as well, so I'm carrying a firearm right now without permission from the government, because we live in a mostly free state, one of the more free states in the country. But I want to talk about what's going on in Alabama. You would think Alabama would be a slam dunk for constitutional carry. They already have open carry without a permit. They already have very few restrictions on firearms, if any at all, down there. So you would think it'd be a slam dunk. And I think the people of that state want this to pass. They want constitutional carry. But what they're looking at is, every pun intended, a big old fat speed bump in their way. And I'm talking about Bobby Timmons, the executive director of the Alabama Sheriff's Association. You heard me right. Sworn law enforcement officer who's been serving as the executive director of this association since 1975, folks. He has been almost 50 years as the executive director of the Alabama Sheriff's Association. And he, as a highly trained police officer, says that people shouldn't be carrying guns outside their home without asking permission from the government. Now, he, of course, is exempt. He and all of his fellow law enforcement is exempt from that. I've got some quotes here. And this is the meat and the potatoes of the video. Before anything else, before we get into the real meat and potatoes, I've got a link in the description box below. If you're an Alabama resident, that you can contact your representatives directly, your state representatives, not your federal ones in Congress and Senate, but the State Assembly of Alabama. I've got a link that you can contact them and make sure that you let your opinion be known so that this constitutional carry bill can be passed. If you guys really work hard on this and get together, you can make that happen. But this big old speed bump, Bobby Timmons, well, let me just give you what his words say. You know, I did teach history. I was a high school history teacher. I was also an adjunct professor of history in a community college as well. But rarely do you come across people as ignorant in things constitutionally as this guy. Now, I don't know where he went to school, and I don't know when he went to school. I assume he's probably in his 70s or 80s. You know, so he's an older guy, more experienced in life, but ignorant when it comes to the important things. And I think that when you hear his words, and I've got some direct quotations from him so that you know what you're up against, so you can know that you're arguing against ignorance, stupidity, an outright oath violator. So in 2014, he came out in an article where he said that an automobile, your automobile, the one that you own, is not your property, and that you do not have a right to carry a firearm in your own automobile. So your family's there, you're going on a trip, you don't have a right to defend that. You don't have a right to carry a firearm outside that without asking government permission, by the way. He's also a real smart guy. And he says, this is from this year, in an interview, he said that the Second Amendment does not exist outside your house, and that he would vote to amend the Second Amendment to not include firearms outside the house, but he doesn't think that that would pass. So in his own words, by his own admission, he just gave you his ideology, that he is the determiner of where your rights start and stop. Screw the Constitution. Here's a wonderful quote by him, and this is verbatim, and I apologize for reading from it. Normally I'd be able to paraphrase it, but I want you to hear his exact same words, and I want you to think about just what this guy's beliefs on the Constitution are. This is a direct quote. I disagree with him, meaning the Supreme Court. They need to cite the date when the Second Amendment was codified to be a part of the Constitution. See how many cars they had driving around. How many roads did they have? How many motorcycles did they have? When the Constitution was written, there was no reason to include stuff about roads and cars. It's not written that way, but it's just pure common sense. So he thinks that the Second Amendment starts and stops at the threshold of your door. He does not believe that the constitutional right exists for you to carry a firearm outside of your house without paying for a concealed carry permit, which, by the way, his office gets money for. Now, I will tell you guys this. Let's just take this down. I'll cite the date when the Second Amendment was codified in the Constitution. That would be 1789. The original Bill of Rights was amended because the Constitution is changed through an amendment process. And that was written, and it was by George Mason, and it was written in 1789. Now, I want you to understand when this was written. We had just fought a war with Great Britain. We just fought a war. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights were written specifically to address the abuses that we as Americans faced under the British and fought against during the American Revolutionary War, 1789, 6 years after the American Revolution. And by the way, what started that war? What started that war was the British military, or agents of government, their version of law enforcement, going out and trying to disarm the American colonists who did have firearms outside of the home. That's why that war was started. And there's a very specific reason why the Second Amendment was written to the Constitution. It didn't involve anything about automobiles. You mentioned how many roads did they have? Well, Bobby, quite a bit. They had quite a bit of roads. The same roads that our troops marched on to fight against tyranny against the British during the American Revolution. So there were quite a bit of roads to get tens of thousands of people from point A to point B. They had quite a few roads between towns. They had quite a few roads between states. They had quite a few roads where people traded and goods and services. And you ask about motorcycles, how many motorcycles did they have? Well, they didn't have any motorcycles, but they did have horses. They did have horses. Nobody had to write laws against carrying firearms when you're riding a horse. That was perfectly fine. You ask about automobiles. Well, they didn't really have automobiles, but we said they had horses, but they also had buggies. They had carriages. They had families traveling in carriages. They had people traveling in carriages, which served as your, quote, automobiles. And since you don't understand that rights are not just limited to the technology of the time, that would be the same as the First Amendment not covering internet speech. That would be the same as the First Amendment not covering radio. That would be the same as the First Amendment not covering any other technology. So, you know, and by the way, Alabama didn't exist when the Second Amendment was written. And your sheriff's office sure as hell didn't exist when the Constitution was written. And since you want to go back to the time when the Constitution was codified and you want to know when it was written, I've got the commentary, the greatest political commentary ever written on the Constitution. This is from James Madison, the father of the Constitution, when he gives his opinion on American firearms ownership and whether or not that extends beyond your door without government permission. So this is what James Madison says in the 46th Federal Essay. Besides the advantage of being armed, which the Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation, the existence of subordinate governments to which the people are attached and by which the militia officers are appointed forms a barrier against the enterprises of ambition, more insurmountable than any which a simple government of any form can admit. Let us not, and this goes on in the same essay, let us not insult the free and gallant citizens of America with the suspicion that they would be less able to defend the rights of which they would be in actual possession than the debased subjects of arbitrary power would be to rescue theirs from the hands of their oppressors. So, what do you think? Is James Madison talking about just defending your home against common criminals, or is he talking about defending it from tyrants of government? I think if English is your first, second, or third language, that you will be able to deduce that that is exactly what Madison is talking about, that it is not only to defend your home and your family, but it's also to defend your country against tyranny. But don't just take James Madison's words for it. Let's go to Alexander Hamilton, the darling of the left, the one that they always use and the one that they always say, always would want gun control. Let's see what Alexander Hamilton says. And this is from the 29th Federal Essay. If circumstances should at any time oblige the government to form an army of any magnitude, that army can never be formidable to the liberties of the people while there is a large body of citizens, little if at all inferior to them in discipline and the use of arms, who stand ready to defend their own rights and those of their fellow citizens. Does that sound like a right that was designed to be used only inside your house? Does that sound like a right that was only designed to be used, you know, not in your car? No. These people understood that a right exists not only inside the home, but outside the home. These are their own words. So, Bobby, man, you ought to go to a history class. I'll teach you. I mean, I'll help you understand the Constitution better, but you got to understand that your interpretation of the Constitution is not going to prevent free people from exercising their rights. And of course, all this to say, guys, where is he getting his talking points from? Well, Bobby Timmons is getting help from an organization called Moms Demand Action, which is a far left-wing, anti-gun organization. It's anti-civil rights, it's anti-Second Amendment, and they are working with Moms Demand Action. They are working with the Alabama Sheriff's Association to deprive the people of Alabama of passing constitutional carry. This is political activism at the worst level, because it is not designed to enhance liberty or public safety or any of that other crap that they say. This is specifically designed to prevent you, the people of Alabama, from exercising your rights. And you should contact your representatives directly, and you should contact them and encourage them to pass constitutional carry in Alabama and join the ranks of the free states in this country where people do not have to pay the government for the privilege of carrying a firearm, but where their government respects their God-given and constitutionally recognized right to carry a firearm both inside and outside the home. If you found the information in the video helpful, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media. That link is in the description box below. And if you want to learn how to use your firearms to protect yourself, your family, your home, and your country, come on out to Valor Ridge and we can help you with that. This is Reid Henrichs with Valor Ridge reminding you the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.